one school application?
Okay. It depends. It depends on the students, and at once you can. So there are many formats of applying for the universities in Korea, and I think you can apply for 3 schools at once. So it's basically you have this big exam called Korean SAT, and we prepare for that exam even early as elementary school. So it would be like over 10 years we study for it, and you can take it only once in a year. And there are this is nervous. You take it, and based on your score, there are limits to the schools that you can apply for. So you have to have certain score that's over maybe like, I don't know, something, and then you can apply for the schools in Seoul. And if you don't have that, and then you cannot. So there's that limits there, and applying fee isn't that expensive. I mean, like, it has been so many years before, so I don't really remember much. But studying takes a lot of efforts. So really, many high school students are really stressed out these days. There are many suicides. So this has been a really big issue.
Okay, great. Absolutely. Maybe I'll check in with the audience after the panelists have each answered a little bit of each question. Does anybody have anything to add in regards to admission experience? Or perhaps a question for a panelist? Maybe you're considering applying, if we have some youngsters out here. I'm not sure.
What is the application fee? Like, around how much is an application fee for university?
But it may not be easy to answer because they don't pay, their parents pay.
I think it's just taking exam fee, so it wasn't that expensive, I think. It was probably less than 50,000 won, I think.
In American universities, they can be quite expensive for application fees, especially the more selective schools. They try to have a high application fee to prevent everyone from applying to, say, Harvard. So it's a way of making sure only serious applicants apply.
Okay, great. We'll go ahead and move on to the next question topic. Communities in university. So this is a really exciting topic and important topic, I think. Have you guys experienced much community involvement, perhaps through dormitories or clubs or on-campus work, classroom groups? What can you guys add to this topic? What do you guys think? Yeah, go ahead.
I participate in one group which I can speak English. So actually, community is important, but using speaking English, I can improve my English proficiency also to communicate with other people. So I think it is important for me to attend another community's club.
Absolutely, definitely.
I'm also in another English conversation club, and yes, that's so great for me. And I have joined in another club that is playing soccer, to play soccer. Yes, so yes, there are many clubs in university. So yes, there is a kind of studying something or playing some sports as soccer, basketball, and I love to play soccer, so yes, I entered the club in freshman. So before entering military service and after military service, yes, I have played soccer in a club with many members. Yes, so that, and the members are comprised of my senior or junior in same major, so I can be a man who is intimate with them by that opportunity to play soccer with them.
Absolutely. Great. Yeah.
I'm joined the English club in Baksa, which is university. I think most Korean universities are focusing on their spec and getting a job. But when I was in America, I joined in post, writing, and fancy. That is focusing on the activities and get along with many friends. I think that is the difference in Korea and America. Most Korean university students are not focusing on their life, just to focus on their spec and getting a job.
Okay. So would you guys say that it's all about keeping the balance? Is the balance a good thing to have community involvement with
But it
clubs?
is a little bit difficult to enjoy in the exercise.
Right.
I'm focusing on that.
Okay, good. Listeners, yeah, go ahead.
Before I speak of my opinion, I wonder the other countries' university, whether they make some kind of study group for getting a job. So I wonder because one of the very interesting characteristics in our university, the study group for getting a job is very popular. So every week or even every day, the study group, new study group uploaded on the board, and they gather the people and study together, and they also simulate the interview and writing the resume together. So we all, especially on 4th grade students, study together for only getting a job. So I wonder the other countries will also do this kind of things.
That's an excellent question. Does anybody have an answer for her?
No, not no, I don't have an answer. No, to your question. I mean, I'm American, and there would be study groups, like we would have study groups, but not so much a focus on getting a job. Not until the end. Like we might have the advisors, help us out with choosing that kind of thing, but really not till the end. At least that's my experience. So.
Sure.
Go ahead and then Bradley.
I'm a member of staff member of the LPG in Jeonnam University. Now I'm teaching at Polytechnic College, English as a professor. Well, even though we are making the English club at that time, but we just not studying English. We sometimes drinking makgeolli and playing soccer with other club members, and we enjoy the last activities in those days. So you don't need to worry about it, even though you join the English club. Just enjoy it.
Great. Thank you for your input, and thank you too. Bradley, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think what Jinchil's talking about is usually served by the university. There's some sort of organization within the university, something called like career services, something like that, where they have staff members there that will help you draft a resume, that will help you prepare for job interviews, and they maintain a website that will have job postings in your particular field. So it sounds like those, the functions that you're talking about within that club, those are more shifted to a function of the university itself.
Absolutely. Great question to kind of dive a little deeper. All right, so I think we're ready to move on.
There's 2 clubs, and I joined a music club and English conversation club. So I'm learning guitar and singing, and have performed several times, and advocate my fingers and something like that.
Very cool, very cool.
In my case, I also entered the 2 clubs. First is play club. It's rolling and acting. Yes. Second is language club. So
Okay.
when I was young in when I was the freshman in sophomore in the university, I played acting and I enjoyed my life. But as time goes by, I think it's time to set up my proposal for my career. So I changed my club. So I entered LPG club and I learned English.
Okay, okay. That's the language peace group, that's the English club at your university?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
I can divide my two section in my university life because I already mentioned I'm studying in Chinese. So when I stay in Korea, I just concentrate on my club of myself, which I contain. But when I study in China, I participated in candle club. Candle club. So I think this case shows us what is different with the abroad and Korean education. When I stay abroad, I can spend my time to exercise or learning how to play instrument, those kinds of things. But when I stay in Korea, only focus on how to develop my ability to get a job. So,
I mean, that's a big question, is whether or not in the university setting, I mean, there's the academic part of university, we all get that. But the communities, what is the reason that we have university communities? Is it to have an extracurricular where you don't have to think about the academics? Or, I mean, in your guys' cases, it's a way to further build your academic career. Now, what do you think about the direction of, Korea's, and I guess in your case, studying abroad, and you too, Jeremy, the direction of where university communities are going?
actually, in my case, that I have only two purposes when I entered my English discussion club. First one is develop my ability to speak English. And second one was expand my relationship.
So, the direction of the
So the two directions being, one being a club where, an extracurricular community where you further build your academics, or one where you can say, okay, in American universities, I know Jeremy can attest, we have heritage clubs, where it's completely separate, there's no talk about academics, it's just you get to enjoy your culture, or you get to enjoy, a common interest that's outside of the academics. What can you say about the clubs that exist at your university, or you talked about you were in a drama club, but there were these pressures that you faced to change into a more academic field. Can you talk about those pressures, regrets, like what you want, if you wanted to pursue something outside academics, can you just talk about communities in that sense?
If I have chance to enter the community for can I hold my mic?
Yeah, sure, we can come back. Yeah, go ahead.
So for me, before I came to South Korea, I did, also off campus I did internship. I did a part-time job on campus, and so part of my college experience was, of course, getting my academics done and looking towards a degree and learning something, but also I spent time with my friends at my internship, my friends at my job, because that's where I also, like you all said, I'm helping develop my professional skills, working and getting experience in the work environment, but also networking. Another big part of the reason students get involved in these communities is because they want to make networks within the community, so when they do leave, you still have these connections that could possibly connect you to a job. So I know, for example, like in Greek life, I heard that for those who are in Greek life, because it's in, what's it called, the family tree or something, if you graduate, you might find another alum from your fraternity or sorority who works at the career or the company you want to work with, and you can say, oh, I was also a part of that fraternity. I was a part of that sorority. And that's one thing you can have in common. so that when you do get a job, that's gonna be like a talking point during an interview or something that connects you to that company or that future job you want to have.
Yeah, definitely another incentive to get involved in these communities is your connections afterwards, right? We all think about, okay, now I'm in university, but a lot of times the question is, okay, and then what? And a lot of times, yes, you will see these communities are being utilized for not even just maintaining your interests at that point, but making connections for the future. As like you said, like Greek life can certainly be that way, as are a lot of different communities on campus. Does anyone else in the audience want to talk about the communities that you were involved with while at university? How that mentality has sort of changed? Yeah, go ahead.
So in my case, my major is engineering, so I have just to focus on my major study. However, I usually try to find another communities just which are just for my specs. So although there are a lot of various communities in my university, I just found the English English club or the discussion club. So unfortunately, I just study English for my English proficiency and just discussion ability to discuss about something in the company or something like that. So I think the communities in universities kind of have a lot of problem for students because as you know, in current society, students have to only focus on getting a job. So I think it is separated, totally separate. Depends on the advantage of the communities, I think.
Yeah, I mean there is at some point in your life as a student, you have to take time for yourself. At least that would be a concept that I would subscribe to. I mean, you're studying, and at some point, I mean, that's feeding the brain, but you also have to feed the soul, your personal interests as well. And it seems like there are the existence of these clubs, but I think, I mean, especially from what we're hearing here in Korea, there's such an external pressure to always think about the future that it might be a little intimidating to pursue some of these communities that, yes, might be representational of my interests, but is it worth the risk of maybe sacrificing these future academic goals?
So you're encouraged to sort of partake in as many out of academic societies as you can for the first year, and then sort of wean yourself off them towards the end, which I think is maybe a nicer way of doing things, because you kind of have this loads of extra time in the first year to do whatever you want and study. You just have to pass. And then after that, you do a bit less and a bit less. So often in the first year, if you want to be like the captain of the football team or the president of the club you're in, you do that in your first year, not in your last year, because you have no time in your last year.
Oh, wow.
So it's a sort of a reverse.
And the university encourages such involvement
definitely,
in the student body.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
You're kind of expected to join in your very first week of university. It's called Freshers Week.
Yeah.
And there's like a week-long school where you just sign up to as many clubs as you can, and then obviously I think I signed up to about 20 in my first week. but you only do sort of 2 or 3 by the end.
Yeah.
You just try as much stuff as you can. It's all usually free or very small. Like the big sports clubs might charge you if you want to. Like I played rugby, and you have to pay to try out. So you pay £5 or something to go to the trials. But all the other clubs is free, and you just you go along and do as much as you like, and then stop when you like.
Right. That's great.
Wow, tell me, we had some really good discussion over here in Areum's group. How were things over there in Jeremy's group?
It was really good here too. Well, let's take a quick moment to compare what was discussed.
Okay, first, on the topic of college admissions, we discussed a little bit about the Korean system with the Korean SAT, how there's students apply to only 3 schools usually, and it's really focused on exams. And actually, the scores for these exams limit the range of schools to which a student can apply.
Yeah, it was the same over here. Well, under the topic of college admissions, the point that was raised was that Korean universities have so various ways of getting into college, like through Korean SAT scores or admissional office system. And for American universities, it seemed like they look more into the students and their specialties than their scores. Yes.
Okay, so more extracurriculars
Yes,
are,
extracurriculars.
are weighted heavily.
Yes, yes, yes.
Moving on to the topic of communities within within the university, in my group we talked about how a lot of community involvement, club involvement is focused on spec, focused on the future, getting a job, not so much focused on the social aspects, meeting people with similar interests, or getting involved with a group to exercise. It's really another way of job preparation.
Yes, yes, it was the same here. Well, we mainly talked about the purpose of having communities in university, and most of Korean university students, they join communities that are related to their studies or their future career. But for American students, they seem to join communities for networking and meeting more people for like experience. Yes, it was a big difference.
Okay. We also talked about freshman traditions, the institution of MT here in Korea, and we talked about how MT was really a good way to meet peers, build relationships, and how Korean university students study so hard. It's really nice to have an opportunity to blow off some steam. And we even had a teacher at Suncheon University who said that, well, I shouldn't say because she didn't it's being recorded, but she said she wasn't supposed to excuse her students the day after, or on MT days, but she went ahead anyways because she sees the importance of these things. A couple other quick points. As we mentioned, as Autumn mentioned beforehand, Korean university students apply to a major when they apply to a school, and she talked about the difficulties of changing a major. So once you're stuck in that major, then that group really becomes your social group for the duration of your undergraduate career.
Yes, that's the thing. Well, most of Korean university students go on MT, as you said, and mostly they drinks, play games, and get some physical training from their seniors. Yes, and well, for American universities, the freshman traditions differ from universities, I heard.
It depends. Some universities have freshman traditions. Some universities have traditions for everyone, not just freshmen.
Yeah, yes, differs.
We then moved on to the topic of professor-student relationships, and we had a variety of the panelists and the people in the audience group had a variety of experiences. Some were able to go out and have drinks with their professor, and one of our panelists mentioned that was a time to get to know the professor and realize he's just a man, he's just a person. That was kind of nice, but it is case by case, and it did sound like one of the common themes was that professors often cultivate a small community or group to really try and lift up these select few students. We had one student on the panel who, like Areum, was able to study abroad in the US as well, and she compared her experiences with the Korean professors and her US professor, one professor in particular, who really took the time to advise her, offer much consultation and feedback, and when she turned in her report, her paper at the end of the semester, got a full page back outlining her strengths and room for improvement, and she felt like that was something that most Korean professors wouldn't take the time to do.
Well, of course, it is hard to get familiar with professor to students. But, well, the Korean students in my group seem to try hard to get close to their professor using Facebook, helping the professor time to time, and through many other ways. And it was almost the same with the American students' relationship with the professor, I guess.
yeah, I think there's, just like in Korea, there's a variety of experiences. It's really a case-by-case situation. We did have time to move on to the fifth talking point, how students spend their vacation time. One of our panelists admitted to having, during his freshman year vacation time, he just played, and then he regretted that later on, and so he's tried to become more serious and focused during his vacation time and spending that time in ways to improve himself and his situation. It seemed like one of our panelists said that Korean students usually fall into one of two groups: those who do nothing during vacation, or those who study seriously, focusing on things like certifications or TOEIC study, etc. And we did have one student, one panelist member, who said that she liked to spend her time traveling, and that those experiences, traveling both domestically and abroad, are in itself a kind of self-improvement, having new experiences, experiencing new cultures. And then one audience member, I believe, said that vacation time is a good time to make a little extra money. So working a little part-time job, having some spending money for when school goes back into session. So you didn't have time for question 5?
Yes, no. We couldn't go over the last 2 things, yes. So, that was all very interesting. I'm sure that we could talk for days about the many differences between Korean and foreign university systems. However, we've run out of time for today.
But before we finish, let's have Jeremy and Areum come back up here so we can show our appreciation one more time. Jeremy, thank you for sharing your interesting and exciting experiences with us. As a token of appreciation, we have prepared a small gift for you, which will be presented by GIC Director Dr. Shin Kyung-doo.
In fact, the occasion today was prepared not by the staff members, but by volunteers. So I was very happy to hear that the event will be prepared by volunteers, because at the end of last year and at the beginning of this year, I told my staff members to get volunteers involved more actively with whole GIC operation. So I have been quite a lot impressed standing at the back to see this event is going so smoothly, so well organized. And then to make this event successful, our volunteers' contribution was wonderful. And then also the presenters, to Areum and Jeremy together, and also the panelists from Jeonnam National and then Joseon University together. So I hope that more students get involved with this event. In fact, the GIC talk began with 4 students. The reason we began this talk was to provide more opportunities, real-life opportunities to college students. But I found that more non-students come here. Even now, I can see more older gentlemen or even foreigners, not non-Koreans as well. So I was quite surprised to see the different direction of the development of GIC talk. But today, they realized what we dreamed at the beginning in a wonderful way. So you made it possible. And then in addition to this, hope we can have another event to compare Korean universities and then maybe European universities or universities in South Asia as well. Then we will expand our scope of understanding into the more farther, wider realm in the near future. But you started a good program. This one. I think I can point out one more common things. The university tuition, expensive in America, and then Korea as well. Considering the GDP into account, US is the highest in expense, Korea is the second highest in its expense. So after the graduation, the money holds back the freedom of act or freedom of future development of young students. So in that regard, I want to compare Korean American universities with European universities and then Southeast Asian universities for us to understand more what really going on at the background. So I talk too much. Letter of appreciation to Jeremy Azurin. And then you first, lady. Then letter of appreciation, Areum. I do not need to read everything because they have done so much good job to all of us. And then hope you have a wonderful career for your future. You are in English department.
Yes.
I used to belong to English department.
I heard.
I feel very proud of you. Letter of appreciation to Jeremiah Azurin. And then, he has been working as a intern here for the last 6 months. So at the end, from March, we will begin to miss him. Thank you very much. And then small gift from us. And then for you as well. I want to give you another round of applause to the panelists. Who are the panelists? Raise your hand. Who? Panelists. Yes.
Also, we would like to thank Wilson and Audrey for facilitating the discussion. We would like to sincerely thank all the members of the English clubs who participated today. We hope that this is only the beginning of your involvement with GIC Talk and that you will come back as often as you can to help make this program that we are already very proud of even better. So Bradley, would you please introduce the next GIC Talk?
I'd love to. For the next talk, our very own GIC director, Dr. Shin Kyung-gu, is going to give us a talk about the March 1st independence movement and its impact on modern Korean history.
Sounds really interesting. I wouldn't want to miss that one.
Oh yes, please don't. I believe that it is going to be a really good chance for everyone, foreigner and Korean alike, to learn more about Korean history.
Yes, I agree. Well, it's time to say goodbye now.
Already? But wait!
Yeah,
There's
wait.
one more thing. You should all have received a survey at some point today. I believe they were passed out after we reconvened. Please be sure to fill out this survey and hand it to Sung-hyuk before you leave. Your feedback is very important to us and will help us improve GIC Talk. So thank you all for coming today, and we hope to see you all right here next Saturday at 3 o'clock.